Welcome to Lesson 3. I'm hoping things are going well for you and you don't have any problems with this. Today I'd like to kind of start to put everything together for us. And we've seen, for example, that so far we've seen that every sentence has three forms. When we know the three forms, we can easily find the two X word places. And once we find the two X word places, we know the subject. We also saw in Lesson 2 that it's possible a sentence can have shifters, and a shifter is a word or group of words we can move from the front of a sentence to the end, or the end of a sentence to the front, and not change the meaning of the sentence. Today I'd like to show you predicates. And a predicate is also a part of a sentence. It's actually a very important part of the sentence. To predicate means to say something about something. And the predicate of a sentence is that part of the sentence that says something about a subject. Before we start to take a look at our sample sentences here, what I'd like to show you is where we are right now. So we've seen, for example, let me change my color. We've seen that every sentence has two X word places. One X word place where we make a yes or no question. For example, can you drive a car? A second X word place exists in every sentence. And this is where we can put the X word to make an affirmative sentence, like I can drive a car, or negative, I cannot drive a car. And we saw that in an English sentence, between these two X word places lies the subject. So for example, can you drive? You can drive, you is the subject. Now also we saw that sentences can have a shifter place here at the end, or they can have a shifter place here at the front. For example, yesterday John could go to school, or you could say yesterday, or you could say John could go to school yesterday. It really doesn't matter where yesterday is, at the front or the end, so we call it a shifter. Today I'd like to show you our last place in the sentence, and this is called the predicate place. I like to draw a line like this. I put an arrow on the front of it like that, and that shows me that this part of the sentence talks about the subject. So let's take a look at our sentences below, and we'll see how we can use this technique of finding X words, subjects, and shifters to help us find the predicate. And that way we know the major parts of our sentence, and we're able later, we'll see with Lesson 4, we're able to start to go a little bit deeper into our sentence and see a little more closely how sentences are formed. So sentence number 1, movies are a popular form of entertainment in the U.S. Are there any shifters? The answer is yes. In the U.S. is a shifter. I use parentheses to push the shifter away from this part of the sentence. Now I see, here's my X word, are. To make a question, I ask, are movies? And immediately I find my subject for this sentence is movies. This is perfect for us because now I know that between the subject and the place where I have the end shifter, I have my predicate. And I'll draw that arrow to show the predicate says something about the subject. Looks pretty easy? Let's try another one. On any given weekend, over 20 million people will go to see a movie. Are there any shifters? Yes, on any given weekend. There's no shifter at the end. My X word, will. I bring it here to the beginning. On any given weekend, will over 20 million people go to see a movie? My subject is the word or words between the two X word subject, between the two X word places, and I draw a box around them. Now, if I had an N shifter, it would begin after movie. But since there is no N shifter, I know that everything left is the predicate. And I point the predicate to the subject to show that the predicate says something about the subject. This is going to be very, very useful for us because we're going to see the major parts of the sentence, and then we're going to be able to get inside those parts and see how the words are put together. Let's try another one. Our local movie theater has 6 screens. I take a look and I see there are no shifters. And a lot of people will say, oh, the X word is has, but let's try it first. Our local movie theater has not 6 screens. That doesn't sound quite right. Has our local movie theater 6 screens? Again, it doesn't sound quite right. The yes-no question using has sounds like British English. Actually, has is not the X word. The X word is does. Does our local movie theater have 6 screens? Negative, our local movie theater does not have 6 screens. And now I know the subject is between the two X word places. Whoops, I made a mistake. Actually, the X word place is here. Let me cross that out. Okay, that was my mistake. That's our subject, our local movie theater. There is no shifter, so everything from the subject to the end of the sentence is the predicate. Perfect. One more. I may go to a movie theater next weekend. The shifter, next weekend. X word, may. I move may to the front to make my yes-no question. May I go to a movie next weekend? And my subject, it's a small one, is I. The shifter begins with next weekend. Here's my subject. Everything from the subject to the predicate, from the subject to the shifter, is the predicate. And I'm done. I now have my sentence broken down into pieces. I see the subject place, predicate place, and when I have a shifter, I see that also. I hope that it looks good to you and you won't have any problems. Please, let's go to Lesson 3, Exercise 1, and give that a try, and we'll come back and we'll check it together.